high time that I spend a day in the kitchen. I want to show you today kind of my current weekly baking routine. These days never look quite the same. Bread is usually pretty much a staple. I try to do that every week, and then the rest of it kind of varies. But recently I've shown you a couple of dessert videos on here, and I love making desserts, but that's a little bit more like special occasion. We end up sharing with neighbors and friends. This is more almost like my meal prep, if you will. So I'm actually starting off today with croissants. We definitely don't make croissants every single week, but I wanted to make a bunch. I actually quadrupled the batch. I want to put some in the freezer. I tested this out a little while ago, and it seems to work well to go ahead and roll these out and shape them and all of it, and then pop them in the freezer. That way I can just pull them later and pop them right in the oven. We are looking forward to a lot of company in a couple of weeks, and so I thought, you know what? This would be a fun thing to just be able to pull out and bake without much thought being put into it. And these are well on their way. This is actually my third lamination, and so we are gonna do this one more time, and then these need to actually chill in the fridge for 2 hours. Batch number 2 done. Batch number 3. And number 4. Okay, next up I have a batch of muffins here. The kids love having these for breakfast. I like having them on hand for afternoon snacks. These are sourdough chocolate muffins, and I did use fresh milled on these, but of course you could use all-purpose or whatever you have on hand. I did ferment these overnight as well, so they are all ready to go this morning, and probably actually what the kids will have for breakfast here today. All right, we're ready for the oven. Oh my goodness, what an absolutely stunning day out here. I am so grateful that Armour Colostrum is sponsoring this portion of today's video. Again, you guys know I have been loving them now for quite a few months. I want to say probably 8 or 9 months. But if you are new here, basically Armour Colostrum is a bioactive whole food with over 400 functional nutrients. Things like antibodies, antioxidants, peptides, micronutrients, minerals, prebiotics, so many vital things that really can help your body function at its best. It is just a very effective way to help support your immune system. I am putting 4 of these little caps in my cup. I love mixing this with raw milk. I like to put in my chocolate collagen as well, so it makes it chocolate. You could also just add some cocoa powder, some raw honey. You'd be good to go. It's like a delicious chocolate shake. And then I also put in my dandelion blend. So that's my special little treat every afternoon. If you want to give Arma Colostrum a try. They were so generous in giving me a special discount for you. You can head to my link, tryarma.com/thisgoldenhour, and use the code thisgoldenhour. Again, that's tryarmara.com/thisgoldenhour, and use the code thisgoldenhour for 15% off. Okay, while the first batch of those bakes, I want to go ahead and get started on some bread. Now, I had full intentions of making sourdough bread that was fermented overnight, but I completely forgot about it before I went to bed last night, so that's okay. We're gonna go ahead and do fresh milled. And for this, I'd still use my sourdough starter, but I'm not fermenting it overnight, so it's just gonna be more of a quick ferment using yeast. I still personally just do not feel a huge difference long fermenting the fresh milled. It fascinates me, the two different sides that there are, as far as some people saying that you should still long ferment fresh milled. Other people are like, no, that can mess up the nutrients. I know people have different opinions, but I've heard it said also that fresh milled is just like a completely different food than any other sort of like processed flour, and I would agree with that. It just feels completely different in the stomach. And so anyways, that's what we're gonna do today. Is I'm gonna hopefully make a couple loaves here of fresh milled, and I'll use the same recipe to also make some hamburger rolls to have on hand. So first we gotta mill our flour. We'll start by adding our lukewarm water and then some yeast to the bowl so that can rise for a couple minutes. All right, the bread dough is ready for its first rise, so I'm gonna grease my bowl. I like to put it into a bit of a bigger bowl to allow for the rise, and then we'll cover it and let it sit for at least an hour. Okay, we'll clean up here a little bit, and then I think next I'm gonna make some sourdough tortillas. All these breads that I'm making, by the way, is not something we'll probably all eat within a week, but it is all things that freeze well, and tortillas are no exception. So I just took the recipe that my mom has used all growing up. We ate a ton of, and then I just added some sourdough starter to make it sourdough. So I didn't even measure it, just threw some in and let it ferment overnight, and then we'll shape them and then fry them this morning. Now let these rest here for about 30 minutes before I press them. Our flour tortillas have been sitting now for half an hour, so we are gonna go ahead and press them and fry them. Now, my tortilla is a heated tortilla press, and so I have it plugged in, so it is warm now. When I make flour tortillas, I like it heated. When I make corn tortillas, I don't heat it. I don't know why, that's just how my mom always did it. So that's how I do it. And then I have some avocado oil in here that I'm just spraying on to make sure that they don't stick. So let's get it started. Beautiful. I just use my bench scraper to flip them and it works well. Okay, my bread dough is definitely calling my name. It has risen beautifully and it's time to shape into loaves. I like to use the same recipe for hamburger rolls as well, so I think I'll do maybe just one pan of hamburger rolls today and then the rest into bread. All right, what do we have left here? Probably 2 loaves, I'm thinking. I think I'll do one cinnamon raisin. Josh loves cinnamon raisin bread, so that's a fun one to make. And then the other one we'll just do plain. To give it that swirled look, I'm just kind of stretching out my dough and then we'll roll it up. All right, my butter here is still pretty firm, so I'm just gonna kind of take slices of it and put dots on it over the dough. Looking forward to this. It's been quite a while since I've made cinnamon raisin bread. And then I'm gonna sprinkle it with a little brown sugar. Some cinnamon, of course. And then the raisins. And we'll roll it up. Perfect. All right, and then our other piece of dough here, we're just gonna do into regular bread. And they are ready to rise. All right, let's have some fun, shall we? It is time to roll out all of this croissant dough. We have 4 batches here, like I said earlier. All of these need to be rolled out to 11 by 24 inches. So if you are looking for a fun arm workout, make croissants. Croissants are not one that I would recommend if you've never baked a loaf of bread before. They are definitely a little bit more advanced. However, if you have made a loaf or 2 of bread before and you kind of know how bread works, I would highly recommend giving it a try. You don't need to start with a quadruple batch immediately, but give one batch a try. They are so rewarding, so delicious, and they just always feel kind of like a gourmet food. And of course, taste amazing because you have made them in your kitchen with a lot of love. So I mixed this dough yesterday, had it sitting for a while at room temp and then popped it in the fridge overnight. And then around 6 o'clock this morning, I started with laminating the dough, which simply means you're creating all those beautiful buttery layers. And then of course we let them sit in the fridge for about 2 hours, a little over, probably more like almost 3 hours. And now we are rolling them out. We're gonna cut them, we're gonna roll them up, and then they're gonna rise for a couple of hours. So usually figure almost 2 full days to make croissants, but you're obviously not working all the time. It is a lot of sitting time, but what I feel like makes it a little bit more complicated is there are more steps in it than, you know, some sourdough recipes. It's literally just resting time. Croissants are a little bit more where you do need to be a little bit more involved with the laminating process. And then once I have them on trays, I'm actually gonna brush them with warm water occasionally just to keep them from drying out. But I'll show you what I mean here after a little bit and we can talk about it. So for now, let's get these things rolled out. Not quite wide enough, but a little extra long. So we'll just lift this up. Perfect. All right, perfect. Okay, we're gonna mark sides every like 3 inches along both ends, and then we'll just connect the dots. All right, and then we are literally gonna just crisscross over. I don't know how well you can see that. Basically, you'll have one like little split in the middle of your triangle. Let me get started and hopefully that will make a little more sense. I like to use my ruler even just to keep things straight. I am not gifted like my husband in that can just make a straight line on my own. So I use my ruler. This makes pretty good sized croissants. I love huge croissants, but if you want them smaller, you could definitely do 2 inches apart or something like that. Beautiful. Okay, and then we'll literally just take our triangles, and this is what I was trying to show you before, that when we did our markings, you see the one in the middle here still. So we kind of went every other with cutting them, but I just like to stretch this apart a little bit, and then you just go ahead and roll them up. This is such a fun part of the process. Perfect, and then we'll set them in our cookie sheet. And then there's 2 end pieces that you can do whatever with. You could fill them with chocolate. Maybe actually I could put Nutella in them. That might be good. Or I just roll them up and use them as croissants. They just don't look as pretty. Okay, and I'll just keep doing this over and over times 4 till we have these all rising. All right, just ready to roll up the second batch. And I just wanted to also make sure to mention to flour your surface well. I noticed that in my first batch, some of it was just sticking a little. So these, I made sure to flour really well, and you'll just get a cleaner looking croissant that way. So anyway, we'll roll these up next. Beautiful, nice, smooth finish that way. I very rarely have Nutella in the house, honestly not even once a year, but I did have some now, and I thought, you know what, how fun would it be to do one batch with Nutella in it? So I'm gonna spread that over here before we cut and roll these up. Okay, I'm laughing at myself. This looks more like it. I kept thinking, what is up with my croissants? Which they're fine, but I think I do normally stick with a 2-inch versus 3. This is what happens when I don't make croissants for a while. My last batch here, I'm doing a little bit smaller with a 2-inch. Okay, croissants are all rising, and I think our breads and our hamburger rolls are ready to bake. So I'm gonna go ahead and brush an egg on the hamburger rolls, maybe sprinkle some, I don't know, everything but the bagel seasoning or sesame seeds or something on there, and then we'll get to baking those. Well, my morning is gone. It is noon now, but I do want to bake my final dough here, which is biscuits. So this is also with fresh milled flour. Of course, you could use whatever flour you have on hand. I'm not going to use a rolling pin for this because I want them to stay nice and flaky, and sometimes it seems like with the rolling pin it kind of over mixes it. So I'm just gonna press it flat with my hands to about 1 inch thick, and then we'll cut them and bake them. I wish I could give you one of these through the screen, but they are smelling delicious. I ended up baking a couple pans of these, popped a couple pans in the freezer for future enjoyment. It feels so good to just have some of these baked goods ready to go for easy meals, especially as it's getting super busy here with outdoor work. And I hope that you gained some inspiration as we did this. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to check out Armra, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, friends.
Golden, golden thing.